I'm Kiyan.
And this is Trust Your Doctor, that podcast where we violate our prime directive. Because this week we watched Robot.
Written by Terrance Dicks.
Directed by Christopher Barry.
And aired in December and January of 1975.
Would violating our prime directive mean we didn't watch?
December of 74 and January of 75, not January and December
I think that much would be
74.
Obvious. They wouldn't just air it in the beginning and end of the same year, but would violating our prime directive be not watching Doctor Who?
Yes. Let's just go with that.
My brain. No, we actually did watch Doctor Who this week, obviously, because we're putting out an episode, and it'd be really weird to put out an episode on not Doctor Who on our Doctor Who podcast.
Right. And also, unsurprisingly, because this show is finally fun to watch again, because we're finally out of the third Doctor era. Well, that might be a little bit of an overstatement, but...
Yeah, just a little bit.
The Doctor is finally fun again.
Yeah.
And I really like the fourth Doctor.
It's
so
his
far.
first serial.
Yeah, but he's
Can't
already...
judge him yet. You were the one who gave me crap for judging the 12th Doctor, and he's only had one season.
So far. See? I added the qualifier. But I already like him more than Pertwee.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that, actually.
Yeah.
Like, really obvious if you listened to our show that was going to be the outcome. But anyway, the serial begins with, obviously, the regeneration scene with Pertwee turning into Baker again.
Right, and this was actually filmed alongside Planet of the Spiders.
Right.
Which we watched last week, but if you were watching back in the day, you would have watched months ago.
A few months ago. Yeah, multiple months ago. Well, anyway, the Brigadier is, gawking at the Doctor's changing body, and Benton comes in, and Benton's like, oh, did it happen again? The Brig's like, yeah, I watched it this time. And they call for a medic because the Doctor is passed out on the ground, and Sarah Jane is next to his passed out body. And in comes Lieutenant Harry Sullivan, the medical officer.
Right, and the Doctor sort of snaps awake and then snaps back into sleep.
Yeah,
That's
he mutters some quotes.
Which were apparently from the third Doctor's era?
Yeah, he talks about Sontarans perverting the course of human history, which was the Time Warrior, and then he quotes the Brontosaurus line from Invasion of the Dinosaurs. Yeah.
Tonight's Brontosaurus is going to be a national disaster.
What?
What was the Brontosaurus line?
Like, oh, don't worry, Brigadier, the Brontosaurus is vegetarian and slow and stupid.
Oh, I think it was a Stegosaurus.
Nah, I think whatever. Doesn't matter because it's not the third Doctor's era anymore.
It's not Planet of the Dinosaurs. No, it's not Invasion of the Dinosaurs, thank goodness. But this was actually kind of more mediocre than that, though.
Yeah. So the Doctor is taken to the sick bay, not the infirmary.
Yeah, Sullivan flubs his line a little later in this serial and tells the Doctor that Doctor, I have to bring you back to the sick bay. I mean, I think it was the other way around, but
something like that.
He corrects himself blatantly mid-sentence, which I noticed.
Right. And during all of this, Sarah Jane has just decided she's going to go off on an adventure to some scientific research place that's nicknamed Think Tank.
Right, because while all this is going on, a super weapon has been stolen and some people have died. Interspersed in all these scenes are some weird, trippy, Silurian-esque vision, except even worse, scenes where an unseen assailant kills some people.
Unseen because you're seeing it from their vision.
Right. It's first person.
Like the Dalek cam in Death to the Daleks. So Sarah Jane is off at Think Tank, exploring the grounds, and she sees a room that's empty, or so they say.
Yeah, I'm sure that remains empty for the rest of the serial. Never comes into play.
She thinks that's pretty shady, so... Well, she comes back later, but for now, she leaves to go check up on the Doctor again, and the Doctor is currently running around the facility looking for his TARDIS.
And also freaking out.
Yeah.
Being really eccentric and more likable already than the third Doctor.
Maybe because he's a bit all over the place for a while.
I just liked, see, I didn't know what Baker's voice sounded like before this, and I just liked how he's like the most wacky Doctor so far, but his voice is super deep and serious sometimes. I don't know. Just, it's kind of funny.
Yeah, I guess. He's still alive. This is the first Doctor that is still alive for us. And is still producing Doctor Who content, because he still does audio dramas every year.
Good on you, you 80-year-old person.
He must be in his 80s, his 90s. We could check his official website. He has an official website that he keeps regularly updated, I think. Or his people keep regularly updated.
His people.
Well, while the Doctor's kind of running around, he locks Harry Sullivan in the cupboard and gets into the TARDIS to find something. Actually, I think he's just gonna leave.
Yeah, he's just gonna leave.
And the Brigadier and Sarah Jane are like, you can't just leave. And he's like, wait, why?
He sort of peeks his head in and out of the TARDIS multiple times.
He forgets who the Brigadier is as well. He's like, who are you? Alexander the Great. No, Hannibal.
Yeah, I didn't know if he was just playing or...
Probably post-regeneration trauma again. Choji did say he was going to be a bit eccentric when he finished his regeneration.
Yeah, which also makes sense because, the second Doctor definitely was, and the third, I guess you can kind of say was too.
He did break out of the hospital like 3 times. Wheel the wheelchair down the...
Wasn't the TARDIS key being in the Doctor's shoe a reference to...
Spearhead from Space?
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah, so...
Or just a happy coincidence, I don't know which.
Also, not certain how accurate this is, but this might be the first time we hear Brigadier's full name is Brigadier Alistair Gordon Lethbridge Stewart. And I found out a week ago that Alistair is actually his name, and it's the Anglicanized form of the Scottish form of Alexander. So, the Scottish Gaelic version of Alexander is like Alistair, which is then Anglicanized again to become Alistair, which is the Brigadier's first name.
Yeah.
I guess Gordon is his middle name.
Yeah, and Lethbridge Stewart is his last name. God, there was something else I was going to say about that.
Well, the Doctor eventually decides to stay.
Oh.
Because Sarah Jane has mentioned the theft of the destructor beam ray thing that has kind of got everybody dizzy, I guess, is the word.
Yeah, the Brig already knows about it. I think he was the one who told Sarah about it.
She wasn't really supposed to mention it, and she accidentally also mentioned it to the think tank people, which kind of gets them suspicious of her.
Well, I think they were suspicious to begin with. I mean, she's a reporter snooping around their facility where we find out they're
doing shady things?
Yes. I was gonna say, I actually don't know if this is the first time we've heard the Brig's full name. I knew it beforehand, so I couldn't really say whether or not.
I knew it, but I feel like we never heard the Alistair Gordon bit. We only heard the Lethbridge Stewart bit during the third Doctor's run.
Well, we don't hear it often if we have heard it before, so that's that.
Well, the fourth Doctor, I guess, decides to get together his outfit, and now begins the humorous scene where he comes out of the TARDIS in some outfits. The Brigadier comes in later to find the fourth Doctor dressed as a Viking, and the Brigadier's like, "Oh, you've changed." The Doctor's like, "Wait, no, not again." And he looks in the mirror, he's like, "Oh no, I'm still the same." Brigadier's like, "No, your clothes,
The nose
Doctor."
is a definite improvement.
Fourth Doctor and his nose.
So he goes back into the TARDIS and comes back out dressed as a flamboyant, noble-looking guy.
A Knave of Hearts.
That.
And then he comes out as a clown.
Right. The Brig tells him, he's like, no good. And so he goes back in, comes back out as a clown. And then changes again into his iconic scarf.
Right. It almost goes back in to change it, but the Brigadier's like, no, that'll do.
I think the brig is just fed up with all of this.
So funny story about the origin of that scarf. I think most people know the story, but when they were designing the Fourth Doctor's outfit, they were going for a quote-unquote bohemian look for the Fourth Doctor, so they wanted to give him a scarf. So they took this wool to this lady. Hang on, wait, I have her name here.
Took this wool to this lady.
They took some wool to a lady named Begonia Pope, and they asked her to knit a scarf, and I guess she kind of misinterpreted the costume crew / Barry Letts' instructions, and she used all of the wool that they gave her to knit the scarf. And when she brought it to them, they're like, thanks, this is a bit long. And then Tom Baker was like, no, guys, it looks great. Let's go with it. So they clipped it down a bit so that Baker didn't go tripping all over the place.
Which he eventually does anyway.
Yeah, he does at some point. Possibly even during this serial already. It's either during this one or the next one.
During this serial.
Where it's, I think,
the next one.
I think it's during actually rehearsal he trips and he injures his arm. Because there's a picture from this season, I believe, where he's in a cast. Or he has his arm in a sling because he injured it because he tripped on the scarf.
He's also in the cast.
You and your
I just
puns.
had to.
Well, anyway, so the Doctor has his iconic scarf on. He doesn't have a frock coat on yet, which will become an iconic part of his outfit later. Right now, he just kind of has a red sport coat on. He's also wearing the TARDIS key around his neck.
Is he?
Yeah, which is interesting because none of the previous Doctors did that, and I don't think he ever does it again after this serial.
Huh.
Maybe he just doesn't want to lose it. We didn't mention that the TARDIS key got a redesign last serial.
I didn't even notice it.
Well, because back, when Susan had the TARDIS key in the Daleks, it was just like a regular key.
Yeah.
And then last week it was like that pentagonal thing with the cross at the top.
Yeah, okay. Huh.
Yeah.
Well, that's what it is, so there you go.
Back to the plot. The Doctor and the Brig are going to go investigate Think Tank, right?
Yeah.
Or is,
Well, SRS comes into play later. And surprise, surprise, they're the same thing, but who would have seen that coming? Yeah, no, they go investigate Think Tank, and...
Well, after Sarah goes back. Sarah goes back first, gets trapped by the robot at the end of episode 1.
Right, she sort of sneaks back into Think Tank, and
she gets trapped by the robot, and episode 1 ends. And episode 2 begins with that, and the lady who runs Think Tank busts out. There was that funny scene where Sarah showed up at Think Tank, and the kind of head of Think Tank and a assistant who's a guy walk up to meet her, and she goes over to the guy and is like, "Hello, chairperson, nice to meet you." And the lady who's the actual chairperson,
Winters, I think her name is.
I didn't expect such misogynistic attitudes from you, Sarah Jane. She's like, oh, because I guess Sarah Jane is known for pro-feminism, pro-woman's movement.
Yeah.
I mean, if Monster of Peladon has anything to go on. So that was kind of awkward for Sarah Jane.
Right, Winters is the one in charge of Think Tank, and her assistant is Jellicoe.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Winters, whoever played Winters, almost, to me at least, looked like an older version of Elizabeth Sladen. So there you go.
Well, I mean, I've seen an older version of Elizabeth Sladen, so maybe that's why I didn't see the resemblance so much.
Yeah, well, she doesn't look anything like she did back then now. Too much.
Well, I mean, she's dead now, so she's a skeleton right now.
She's dead now?
Yeah, Elizabeth Sladen is, she passed away...
Oh, yeah, no, I did know that.
2 or 3 years ago. I also
Yeah.
found out the other day that Barry Letts actually passed away in 2009 from cancer.
Huh.
Pity. Oh, well.
Um,
Yeah, Elizabeth Sladen was pretty recent, I think.
well, I remember they announced her death on the same day that they announced something Doctor Who related. That's the only reason why.
I feel like it was like 2009 or 2010. No, she met the 11th Doctor, so it had to be post 2011. It's probably like 2012 or 2011, to be honest. We could look it up, but...
But Sarah's
anyway.
about to die because
Because of the robot. Because Winters is like, robot, kill her. She's like, but it goes against my prime directive.
And Winters is like, well, do it anyway, but it doesn't. Because apparently the robot can't harm people.
Or so you think.
Well, not really. You do think it's actually going to harm
Yeah.
people at some point, and it does. So your expectations really aren't wrong. But it doesn't here.
Before the Doctor and the Brigadier go to investigate Think Tank, what makes them go to investigate Think Tank is someone named Joseph Chambers has been killed by the robot.
The robot, yes.
Um,
He was I think they said he was a powerful member of Parliament, something like that.
he had all the nuclear launch codes for every major power in the world because apparently Russia and America both decided that it would be a good
China.
idea to give all their nuclear access codes to a neutral third party, Great Britain.
Yeah, neutral.
Yeah, neutral. Seriously, could have gone with something like actually neutral, like Switzerland or something. No, they had to go with Great Britain. But as they're kind of trying to discern what killed Chambers, Sarah Jane busts in and is like, a 10-foot tall robot. And Baker's all like, yes, how did you know, Sarah Jane?
Right, because the Doctor... Had he already examined the prince before this?
He must have.
So,
He must have examined
Right.
the prince at the first location where where they stole the stuff to build the destructor ray from.
right, yeah. Because they're in this forest, just, I guess, outside the premises.
Mm-hmm.
Premises, whatever the term is. And he examines these giant prints. And you see a little black bar slide across the screen and says the Doctor examines the prison. No.
Ian examines the prince.
Right, but these prints are huge. The Doctor dramatically
Puts his
steps
foot
in one of the prints, and it's huge. And I like that about the Fourth Doctor so far. He's so much more cartoonish than any than the
More
Third
dramatic
Doctor
than
was.
cartoonish.
I'd say he's cartoonish, just in his actions and how he plays the character.
Second
Baker,
Doctor
that
was
is.
cartoonish.
I'd say he's more cartoonish than the Second Doctor, even, so far.
We'll see. Second Doctor changed his entire character after his first serial, so who knows what could happen? Who knows? I finally get that reference from the 50th anniversary now, thanks to this serial. So I guess now the Fourth Doctor and the Brigadier go to investigate Think Tank, and this is where things start to get interesting because they learn that Professor Kettlewell, who used to work on the robot, was quit Think Tank or was fired?
No, he quit the tank
quit.
because he didn't want to develop weapons anymore or anything
Right.
that could harm people. So he decided to branch off on his own and try and develop
Right,
alternate sources of energy.
right, and
Except that all goes to ruin.
they try to convince the Doctor and the Brig that they've dismantled the robot, but they don't believe them.
Right, the Doctor and the Brig don't believe them, but they know that the Doctor and the Brig don't believe them. But the Doctor knows that they don't believe that they know that the Doctor knows they don't believe them. And I was as confused as the Brig was, because he was confused when the Doctor said the same thing.
Well, anyway, the Doctor and the Brig now go visit Kettlewell, and
Who has hair on par with,
Pertwee.
yeah, I was gonna say he puts Einstein to shame, but
The increasingly bouffant Pertwee. He goes to visit Professor Kettlewell, who I found out this week by sheer coincidence because I was listening to the Crinoid podcast Invasion episode that the person who played Kettlewell also played Professor Watkins in the Invasion. The professor who
Yes.
was written in to replace Professor Travers.
yeah.
Because they didn't want to pay any money to what's his name in Lincoln. Yeah, so that's a
They
little
replaced
throwback.
Travers and his daughter Anne, I think it was.
Yeah, with Isabel.
So right, Kettlewell doesn't believe that they have the robot up and running because he says they wouldn't have the technology to do it.
Well, he knows that they have the robot. I think he says they wouldn't have the technology to alter its prime directive
Oh,
or make it
does
go
he?
against its prime directive. He says they were all idiots at Think Tank. None of them would be able to do what he did.
Yeah, looking back on this serial, he actually does look down on pretty much everyone the entire time.
Yeah. Well, except the Doctor, when the Doctor outsciences him by pointing out his flaw in his calculations.
Yeah, but then he also tries to do the things he does later and kind of gets his just desserts at the end, but, whatever.
Kettlewell was a confusing character.
This serial was just a confusing serial. Not in terms of plot, but just in terms of why it was produced.
Because they needed an introduction. Terrance Dicks was like, I'll write it. I'm not scripted it anymore. Robert Holmes has taken over that position.
Little did they know, this would be the end result. This serial with almost no redeeming qualities, other than the fact that it introduces Fourth.
It's middle of the line serial. Anyway, the Doctor goes to do things like he always does. He gets a call from Kettlewell after he's returned to unit. Kettlewell tells him that the robot's at his house.
Yeah, he tells him the robot's broken out of think tank. And then it's there at his house.
Yeah, it's in distress because they made it go against its prime directive, and the robot is like, what do I do? Creator, help.
At least there was some foreshadowing here. I mean, at least the plot point later wasn't just completely pulled out of nowhere. I mean, not that it made sense or was good, but at least there was this vague reference to what happens later.
The Doctor leaves a humorous note that's, I think it goes like,
this is great.
Professor Kettlewell has called me, he's got the robot, I'm gonna go down to see it.
And I'll be fine.
And it's like, P.S., I can handle it, that's why you don't need to come, just don't worry about it, I can handle it. P.P.S., I'm leaving this note just in case I can't handle it.
And Sarah finds that taped to the TARDIS door, I think we mentioned, but
he can't handle it.
Yeah, he can't handle it.
So the soldiers show up and start shooting at the robot, and the robot kills off some unit soldiers. The Doctor makes
kills
a break
some more
for it.
people.
It must really suck to be a unit soldier now that I think about it. Imagine if you just get destroyed by the destructive beam, and the Brigadier has to go to some guy's wife and is like, yeah, we don't have any remains from your husband because he was vaporized by a top secret weapon that the government was building and was stolen by a third party and attached to a living robot that went insane.
Except you probably wouldn't even be told that. You'd probably just be told that they were killed under undisclosable circumstances.
Yeah, they seem to go through unit soldiers really quickly is what I'm saying. It must really suck to be one that doesn't have a name like Benton or the Brig.
Well,
Well, anyway, the Doctor escapes,
Benton
obviously.
also was promoted in this serial, isn't he?
Yeah.
He gets promoted to... I believe I wrote it down because I knew I was going to forget what it was. Apparently Unit is so understaffed that they couldn't be bothered to...
Warrant officer.
Right, warrant officer. Apparently they're so under budgeted that they couldn't hire another... or they couldn't...
get another high-ranking officer.
Right. So instead they just promoted Benton.
Basically, I guess that's their way of saying, yeah, we're not going to bring back a replacement for Yates. Deal with it, audience. It's just Benton in the Brig now. So, obviously the Doctor escapes. He uses Bessie in the serial, we should mention. Bessie is still around, still hanging out with the unit.
Right, even though the Whomobile is, superior in almost every way. But at least Bessie's here. Good old Bessie.
Good old Bessie. It's been here since the start of the third Doctor's era now.
Yep.
So the Doctor escapes.
Season, I believe.
Must be.
7, 8, 9, 10.
It's been here longer than the third Doctor now.
It has.
The Doctor escapes, gets back to unit. The robot stops actually attacking because it recognizes Sarah, because when Sarah first met the robot, Sarah recognized that the robot was in distress and had feelings.
It had emotions, yes. And Winters and Jellicoe were like, no, it can't possibly have feelings. It's just a robot.
Very Wall-E up in this.
Yeah, actually.
What happens next? The Doctor gets back to unit, I guess, talks with the Brigadier some more, which he seems to do a lot in this serial, and the Brigadier decides to try and get authorization from Geneva to raid think tank.
Which he'd
Doesn't
been
get.
mentioning that he was going to try and do for a while. But he hadn't tried until now because he thought he was going to fail, and he was right.
Yeah. The Doctor meets with Kettlewell because Kettlewell was in the cupboard. The robot tied him up and put him in the cupboard. And they kind of talk for a bit, and Kettlewell reveals that the robot's made of like living metal and it can absorb energy and grow and stuff, but that Kettlewell also found a virus that is basically the opposite of that, and I'm really sure that doesn't play into the plot later.
Well, see, I feel like this plot point was just thrown in after it was all written, when they realized they didn't produce enough material to fill up 4 full episodes, so they decided to do what they did at the end of 4, and they're like, well, we have to mention this somehow, so they went back and added this into 3.
Gotta give him credit for making a 4-episode serial feel drawn out.
Thanks,
That's just
Terrance
impressive.
Dicks.
It's just impressive, to be honest.
Right, this serial had the monster Apelidon problem, which I guess is the term we're going to use now, where it should have just ended before it.
This could have been a good 3-episode serial.
It could have.
And they do a lot of 3-episode serials later in the classic series. And
yes, we're finally almost nearing the end of 6-episode serials.
They haven't died yet. I think they'll die a slow, painful death.
It's 1 per season, I think, for the next 3 seasons? Or maybe 2.
Something like that. I know at least once they hit the 5th Doctor, I think they just... Well, the 7th Doctor is consistent 2 4s and 2 3s every season, I think. For all 3 of his seasons. I think it's the same for the 6th Doctor's Lost season. Trial of a Time Lord. There's also that 6th Doctor season where they tried 45-minute episodes, so that'll be an interesting season.
But we still have Genesis of the Daleks to get through.
Could be a good serial. I've heard that serial is actually really good.
Could be. At least
from
we have
some
Ark
people.
in Space next after this monstrosity.
This monster of Peladon status monstrosity. Was that what you were going for?
Not really, but okay.
Yeah. As you can tell, the serial is pretty boring. The Doctor, after meeting with Kettlewell, learns about this SRS thing. They kind of talk about it with the Brigadier.
Did we mention what it stood for? It was, I don't even remember what it stood for.
Society of Reformed Scientists. I just made that up.
That's similar to what it actually was, so let's just go with that. Basically, it's a society of stuck-up scientists who want to control the entire world.
Surprised the 3rd Doctor didn't join this group. No, actually, that's a mean thing to say. He wouldn't want to rule the world.
Yeah.
He explicitly says he doesn't want to rule the world, like to the Master in, what was it, Colony in Space.
Right. And I'm surprised you made that jab at him and not me.
It felt like an obvious jab to be made. Even though it's a totally, completely inaccurate jab.
But it still felt fitting for some reason, I suppose.
We take jabs at him because we love him.
Really
so
now?
The Doctor is talking with Sarah about it, and while the Doctor is, I guess, napping in the lab, Sarah decides to go to the meeting, or at least to go meet at the SRS people, and Benton doesn't have any way to stop her.
Right, Benton tries to stop her, and she says, well, I'm not technically part of UNIT, so you really can't do anything, Benton.
Unless you place me under arrest.
And Benton's like, yeah, you're right. So she goes off to this rally type thing almost. I mean, it's not really supposed to be a demonstration, but it kind of turns into one. Well, not a demonstration, but rally. But it kind of turns into one when Sarah finds out that Winters is speaking. Surprise, surprise. And, you know, she's rallying the followers under a cause, which is to use the nuclear destruction codes to blackmail the entire world into going along with their foolhardy, ridiculous plans.
We should mention this is the second time that Sarah is going to SRS because she went earlier to find out what they were all about. When she found out Kettlewell was a member, she convinced him to smuggle her in.
Right.
And,
little did she know.
Winters felt a lot like Hitler in this scene, just saying.
Yeah.
She had an SRS armband on.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what the actor was trying to channel.
Just standing up there yelling about how it's their time to take the world.
Yep. In the scene where Sarah first goes to SRS, she's talking with the crazed employee, I guess, who goes along with SRS's point of views, and he points of view, and he mentions that her outfit is just completely ridiculous, and she's like, "Oh, the fact that I'm wearing trousers," and I was like, "No, Sarah Jane, it's that headband you're wearing."
I don't think we've made comment of Sarah's amazing fashion sense.
Well, because it hasn't really been as bad as Joe's until the headband this serial, but yeah.
Well,
Just
I mean,
had to mention that
questionable 70s bikini in, was it Death to the Daleks?
Yes.
She really, instead of just putting on, like, clothes, just threw on a coat over the outfit.
Well, she changed out of it eventually, didn't she?
Yeah, before the next serial.
Did she wear that the entire thing? Huh.
Because it had the ruffles on the front. When she put the coat on, she, like, put the ruffles over the lapel of the coat.
Huh. Well, there you go. The 70s.
How do they work?
Right, so Sarah finds out that Kettlewell is in on it with them, and I didn't know if he was... He was half-heartedly in on it with them.
Yeah, and there was super brief foreshadowing with the Doctor when he found out Sarah had gone with Kettlewell. He's like, "You let her go somewhere with Kettlewell?"
And then you find out that he's... I don't think he's really being blackmailed, but I think he's just...
I think he wants what they're fighting for, but doesn't want it the way that they're going about it.
Yeah, probably.
When the Doctor gets to SRS, he does some humorous things to get in. He trips the guy up with his scarf. He also pulls out some papers from Scarro and also mentions Alpha Centauri table tennis players. With 6 arms.
Yeah.
Are difficult to play against, apparently.
6 slow-moving arms.
I imagine the Doctor, like, played Alpha Centauri off-screen, like, in Curse of Peladon. They were just in their room. The third Doctor's just there playing Alpha Centauri.
Of all the things they could have skipped over, why? Why did it have to be that? I'm still waiting for that Alpha Centauri spin-off.
It's not happening, man. It's not happening. You gotta let it go. Avoid the obvious Frozen reference.
And still managed to reference it by saying that, so...
Yes!
The Doctor bursts onto the stage and pulls out a deck of cards, and impressively... does the shuffling technique where your arms are fully spread and you toss, quote unquote, toss the cards between them. Impressive.
Maybe it was just Tom. Maybe when Tom was bored, he's learned how to do that. I don't know. It was impressive though, and I wish I could do that. In the process, I think he drops a card, and when he leans down to pick it up, a soldier lunges at him and kind of lunges over him because he's leaning down to pick up something.
Yeah, that was a little odd because the timing was a little off. The Doctor bends down and then like 3 seconds later the soldier just runs up and jumps over him, clearly.
They're playing leapfrog.
But it's not like we haven't seen worse in this show, so...
Right, the Doctor gets captured anyway, and
surprise.
The robot's there.
Don't know what he thought he was doing there. Now looking back on it.
Well, when he first gets on stage, he says, "Now, are there any magic tricks I can do to entertain you before my friend the Brigadier arrives with his troops?"
I guess he's trying to stall for time, but did he really think they weren't going to take action? It works out in the end, so...
Yeah, the Brigadier...
No harm, no foul,
and his men
no.
arrive, and are about to gun down everybody, and they have the robot, and they just use the robot to escape with Sarah Jane. The Doctor's like, well, they've got Sarah Jane, we've got Bessie.
So, next comes a, what was that serial? Terror of the Autons-esque, scene.
Well, they make off with the robot to a nuclear bunker, and turns out they have automatic defenses, and the Doctor uses a sonic screwdriver to blow up some landmines again.
And also mentions that it doubles as a miniature sonic lance, which was the device they used in Monster of Peladon.
Yeah. Actually, now, didn't realize that until you mentioned that right now. Somehow. I don't really know how.
Okay.
But anyway, the Doctor starts cutting the lock of the door open before the robot busts out, and they all make a break away from it.
Right, and the robot, unsurprisingly, doesn't really want to harm anyone, unless it has to. So it sort of just stands guard there while they discuss their next, they discuss their course of action.
Right. It kills a soldier and a tank, though.
Yeah.
This just vaporizes a tank.
Yeah, the brig dramatically says, well, I've called in the big guns for this one or something like that. The tank pulls up and is immediately destroyed by the robot. And I think the brig makes mention later in this serial that he wishes there was just one enemy they would face that isn't immune to traditional weapons. Which is a good point. I mean, he's probably pretty fed up running this organization that is basically useless and needs to employ the help of an interstellar,
Galactic.
Whatever.
Interpol.
Interloper, essentially.
An interstellar, intergalactic, Interpol, Interloper. So I mean that's how episode 3 ends, with the tank dramatically getting vaporized, and part 4 begins where Winter's like, "Okay, we're gonna just detonate all the bombs, you know. It looks like you guys are just gonna make a run at our base anyway, so this is how we're gonna do this." We forgot to mention they sent in Harry Sullivan earlier as kind of a man undercover. Not that he really did much.
Yeah,
actually.
that was kind of just disregarded.
He did tell them that they went to a bunker, though. That was like his only function as being undercover.
Yeah, I think they were just trying to introduce him here because of what happens at the end, but
yeah,
they kind of didn't really know how to do so.
Just pity.
Kettlewell mentions to Winters that, hey, we're not really going to detonate these explosives, right? And she's like, of course we are. So she starts the countdown. Of course, there has to be a countdown.
A 300-second countdown.
Yeah, I'm not sure where that came from, but it's what it is.
Yeah, something like that. And Winters has cold feet, I think. No, not Winters. Kettlewell has cold feet. Winters says Kettlewell has cold feet. That's why I got confused.
Winters backs down all of a sudden. No. She's completely 180s here now.
It wouldn't be the first time.
Nope. And it probably wouldn't be the last either.
Kettlewell, I guess, is really hoping that they'll find a way into the base, and the Doctor actually mentioned something that I felt was a little bit out of character. It was like, just have your men go over there and kind of draw the robot away while I bust in. Fully probably knowing they're going to their death.
Yeah.
He's basically just telling the soldiers to sacrifice themselves so he can get in and save the world.
Yeah, there were, I know I mentioned earlier how cartoony I think the Fourth Doctor is and how goofy I just think he is, but there were a lot of really dark lines in the serial, or not dark, but just Pertwee level serious lines in this serial, where the Doctor almost seems pretty arrogant. So I think that's a little bit of a holdover from the Third Doctor, and I guess will play into part of the Fourth Doctor's character.
Yeah, for sure. But they don't have to do that, luckily, because I think the robot gets distracted by something. Well, Sarah Jane escapes.
Yeah,
Sarah Jane and Harry Sullivan
out.
escape. And they come outside the door, and that's when the Doctor makes a break for the door. The robot's like, stay away, I will have to kill you.
But then it kills Kettlewell instead.
Yeah, Kettlewell jumps in front. It's like, no, don't kill them, my creation, my child. They only want what is best for humanity. Those people inside are people who will destroy humanity, and kills Kettlewell, and then it goes insane.
Yeah. The robot becomes super conflicted and loses its mind, basically.
But before we can enact anything, the Doctor and the Brig and co. rush in, stop the countdown, even though Winters, right before that, says, countdown can't be stopped. It's too late. You can't stop it. And the Doc's like...
She was probably just trying to bluff her way through so they wouldn't attempt to stop the countdown.
There's another Super Doctor moment, actually, where he's like, computers are just really fast idiots. Harkening back all the way to the Second Doctor and what was it, the Ice Warriors, where it was like, why are you just using this computer for all of your commands?
And Semi-Green Death, maybe?
The Third Doctor mentioned it a couple times, but I'm totally blanking on when.
I know Green Death was one, but...
It is kind of a character trait of the Doctor that he just kind of hates computers, I guess.
Yeah, suppose.
But he stops the countdown with 2 seconds remaining.
Looks really smug about it.
Doesn't get to be all cool and have it with 1 second remaining. But, oh well. Nor like 007, like James Bond, always stopping the bomb on 007 for some reason. Just because it's a cool cinematic moment, I guess.
They reference James Bond, actually, in this serial.
Yeah, Sarah Jane calls
earlier.
Harry Sullivan James Bond when he's going undercover.
Right, he says he doesn't want to go undercover, and Sarah's like, it's your own chance to be your own James Bond. Except he does way less.
Something like that. But then, so you think the day is saved, but then you look at the timestamp and realize there's still 20 minutes left in the 4th episode.
Monster of Peladon, everyone!
So, they're all kind of outside celebrating, and someone's like, guys, the robot's gone missing. And they're like...
And so is Sarah Jane?
And the dog's like, you didn't think to connect the disappearance of Sarah Jane and the robot? Like, what are you guys?
Did they even mention the fact that Sarah had disappeared before they mentioned the robot had disappeared?
No.
Alrighty then.
I think Benton was like, I just thought she went home. Like, really, Benton? Really?
Well, Benton isn't the brightest bulb in the
building.
Is that the phrase? I was going to say brightest bulb in the box, which would make a lot less sense.
I don't even think building is the right term. It's like brightest bulb in the something. Doesn't matter. We can say whatever we want.
Short of a Happy Meal. No, I don't know.
I have not heard that one before, actually. Interesting.
Isn't the sharpest tool in the shed?
I have heard that one.
The lights are on, but no one's home.
I've heard that one from you a couple weeks ago.
I think it was last week.
Last week. With Tommy, I think.
Yeah, I believe so. But yeah, the robot has abducted Sarah Jane and also quadrupled in size.
Well, quadruples in size after it starts the countdown again. Except it has to start again from 300. Yeah. And then it comes out and the doc's like, wait, I know how we can stop it. The Kettlewell mentioned his dumb virus thing that could work. I'm going to go to Kettlewell's place with Harry Sullivan. I'll see you in a sec, Brig. Try not to do anything dumb. The Brigadier's like, wait, we have a destructor beam. For once, I can stop something without the doctor. And then it just makes it...
slowly pans over to the destructor beam.
Just makes the robot 4 times the size. The legs of the robot disappear while it's getting bigger. And the reason for that is last week during Planet of the Spiders, last week for us that is, they switched from blue for the green screening thing. It's not technically called green screening, it's called CSO, but we call it green screen. They switched from blue to yellow during Planet of the Spiders, and they continue to use yellow here. But the silver legs of the robot reflected the lights of the studio and appeared yellow to the camera. So... kind of an oversight there.
So, missing robot legs.
Also, yellow makes it really difficult to film scenes with Bessie and CSO, now that I think about it. I really don't know why they go with yellow.
Yeah, there really is nothing green that they would be,
Or blue. Blue and green are the most commonly used for that.
Yeah.
You never really use red because skin can kind of be pinkish colored and starts to disappear when you use red.
Yeah. Right, but the robot goes all King Kong on Sarah.
King Kong was an inspiration for this serial.
Well, I'm not surprised.
King Kong and iRobot by Asimov. Which definitely plays into the whole Prime Directive thing. If you know Asimov's 3 laws of robotics, and the first one's like you're not allowed to harm humans or whatever. Yeah, it just goes King Kong on us and picks up Sarah.
Right, you could tell that they were trying to go for like, oh, the robot is a super conflicted character or whatever, but it was just brought up way too poorly. And I guess the scenes where the robot was killing people weren't exactly poignant. I don't want to use that term because it's dumb.
I think why it felt like it was brought up poorly is because they tried to go for both the reveal that it was a sentient robot, so they didn't show you the killer for the whole first episode, but also the fact that it was conflicted, and you can't really get it's killing people, but it's conflicted if you can't really show the killer for the whole first episode.
I guess. And the scenes where it was killing people were just very short, too.
Yeah, and from first person. I mean, if we had seen... Like, say if we had seen the robot from the third person, like, struggling to not kill them like it didn't want to, then I think the reveal would have been a lot more, I guess, successful would be the word.
Yeah, I suppose.
Not that it was totally out of the blue, because they did kind of make reference to it being conflicted throughout the whole serial, but...
There was also that whole, oh no, I killed my creator thing that was vaguely touched upon, but then not really, so...
The Doctor gives it some name, some syndrome that apparently is experienced in humans too. I don't know. The robot's basically a human. We counted it on the death count.
Did you call it like Oedipal almost, or something like that?
I think it's Oedipal.
Yeah, that wouldn't really make sense, but I could swear you used some terms similar to that at least. But also the whole robot gets giant because it's made out of living metal kind of feels pulled pretty much out of nowhere.
Something about absorbing the energy of the destructor ray, which has infinite power, the Doctor says.
Right, but it takes Sarah and starts
rampaging through town.
Right, so Unit is called in and...
Well, I mean, Unit was already there, so they didn't really have a choice.
Yeah,
I
guess.
Just leave, like, well, we stopped the world from being destroyed by everyone else, so let's leave. The Doctor on the radio mentions that the threat is not over and tells the Briggs to tell all major powers to activate their failsafes, so they all do when the countdown stops. Makes you wonder why they wouldn't just activate their failsafes as soon as the countdown started, and then just... Why didn't the Brigadier, like, as soon as they got to the bunker and realized it was guarded, just be like, hey, Russia, China, US, probably should activate those failsafes.
What if the Briggs secretly just wanted to make a name for himself and become super famous off this incident?
I feel like he's already famous given all the other alien invasions he's stopped, which he probably takes credit for because the Doctor never wants to take credit for anything.
I guess.
He's very humble in that aspect.
The alien invasions also may have been kept under wraps.
That's true. I mean, Liz Shaw didn't know about the whole Auton thing when she arrived at Unit. And also the whole invasion of Earth by the Daleks way back in the first Doctor's era somehow being kept under wraps.
What if the Brig has secretly been trying to have the alien invasion succeed just so he could be known as the one who tried to stop it the hardest?
No.
No, that doesn't make sense.
That makes zero sense. That makes no sense. I mean, I feel like he does feel a bit overshadowed by the Doctor a bit, but then again, like I said, the Doctor never wants to take credit for anything, so I feel like the Brig takes credit for it. Within Unit, at least.
And takes responsibility for it.
He takes both the fall and the rise that these alien invasions bring.
Yeah. He's
very noble. And the Doctor's very humble.
Yeah, well, I commend the Brig for putting up with the Doctor.
Yeah, I'm putting up with all of the Doctors, to be honest.
Yeah.
Putting up with Troughton in Invasion, and then...
In Hartnell's Poor Delivery? No, I'm just kidding.
He was dying.
Yeah, well, that's a discussion best saved for that other episode that we discussed it in, so...
So, anyway, the serial ends with the Doctor showing up with the virus and killing the robot. That's... The final 20 minutes of episode 4 is spent on the Doctor making the virus work. The Brig calling in the failsafe, and the Doctor just showing up and throwing the bucket of virus on the robot. And also almost falling out of Bessie, I might add.
This is true. He just... I just liked how unceremonious this is. He just drives up, douses the robot's lower leg with the virus, and calls it a day.
And they go back to Unit. The Doctor... Sarah Jane is pretty distraught at the robot getting killed, I guess, because her best friend just killed a robot, to be honest.
Yeah, I didn't get why she had become so attached to the robot, unless there were things off-screen we didn't see, which isn't a good excuse at all. I mean, we didn't really see any bonding between them other than the fact that she was the only one who thought it had emotions, and then it kidnapped her.
Yeah, and was also like, you alone will be saved from this Holocaust, Sarah Jane. I will kill everybody else.
Yeah, I guess that's a little bit flattering, but I mean, I wouldn't want to be told by a crazy killer that, hey, you're the only one I'm not gonna kill.
You're the greatest pickup line in history. Hey, babe, if I was going on a murderous rampage, I'd save you.
Right, but the Doctor says that he's going to go off and go on some more adventures. And then Sarah's like, wait, you can't. And he's like, well, I'm going to anyway.
Yeah.
And then, what's his name, jumps in the TARDIS.
He makes a funny reference, like how the Brigadier wants him to fill out 17 pieces of paperwork in triplicate, and he won't do it. He just won't. And also the Brig wants him to have dinner with the Queen. I guess the Brig really wants the Doctor to take credit for something for once. And the Doctor offers Sarah Jane a jelly baby, which, because spoil right now, is totally his thing. It's his reverse to the polarity, so to speak.
Pretty sure most people know that, so it's not really a spoiler.
Yeah. But in case someone didn't, I'm just saying it right now. That's his thing.
It's really not even a spoiler, even if you didn't know it.
It's his thing. And the second Doctor did it once in the Three Doctors. I don't actually know if we mentioned that in that episode.
I think we did. We should have.
The Doctor says something like, what's the use with being an adult if you're not allowed to be childish sometimes?
Right.
Clearly, probably foreshadowing the entirety of the Fourth Doctor's character, actually, now that I think about it.
Maybe.
And they hop into the TARDIS, and then Harry Sullivan shows up, and he's like, what, you're gonna go traveling in a police box. And the Doctor's like, what, do they not travel? And Harry's like, no, they don't. Like, wow, nobody told me this. Would you care to go inside just to verify that this police box can't travel anywhere?
Right, and he gets in the TARDIS, and then you hear...
Well, first
the Doctor and Sarah stranded, and that's... No.
Harry Sullivan steals the TARDIS.
I have expected that to happen, to be honest. For it to just dematerialize with only Harry inside. But no, obviously that doesn't happen.
No. You do hear Harry go, whoa! And then the Doctor and Sarah Jane go inside and dematerializes, and then the Brig walks in and is like, so, about that dinner, I think you should wear... Oh. And
he's
cue end credits.
Now. Right. So we finally have two companions again.
Right.
For the first time since season 6.
Right, Jamie
this
and
is season
Zoe were the previous duo to travel with the Doctor.
Yeah, unless you count Unit, which we're not.
You could, but we don't, I guess.
Right, I mean, we have them separate on the death count, so...
The kill count,
Kill
too.
count.
But we also have reoccurring individual villains.
Yeah, well, they're not companions either, so...
Before we talk about the serial, we should mention there's another new title sequence, very similar to the old one. They had to replace Pertwee in the title sequence, which I think they replaced with the TARDIS, right? The front image of the TARDIS.
Yeah, but you also do see...
Tom Baker's face does appear.
As did Pertwee's.
Mm-hmm. So now this is the first title sequence to feature the TARDIS in it, which is notable because I think every title sequence from here on out, well, this title sequence and then all the reboot ones feature the TARDIS.
Yeah, the reboot ones feature it going through like a vortex-ish.
It's the time vortex. At least that's what it's supposed to be.
Spend 10 years there, so apparently.
They also opened the door while traveling through the vortex. That's a reference to Planet of the Giants. The first serial of season 2.
Didn't they also open the door in, maybe it wasn't the vortex, but it was in Mind Robber. They kind of opened the door just...
They also opened it during Face of Evil, the one with Salamander. That's how Salamander died.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because Salamander pretended to be the Doctor.
Yes.
And the Doctor showed up and was like, maybe you should...
Poor Salamander. Not really, but...
Well, anyway, the beginning of an entirely new era of the show. This is Barry Letz's final producer credit on the show. He would continue to be involved with the show. He would go on to write the radio play The Paradise of Death, featuring Pertwee and Elizabeth Sladen reprising their roles, which I think was sort of a pseudo 30th anniversary thing since the show wasn't on air at that time. And he would also write a couple books, but he's out. Terrance Dicks, like we mentioned last week, isn't script editor, but did write the serial.
Yeah, he wrote this, so he's...
obviously still involved. And next week, I guess we'll get the new producer, who is Philip Hinchcliffe, who is still alive, as far as I know, unless he died super recently.
Yesterday, no. Right, and the start to an entirely new Doctor, of course.
Right. The Hinchcliffe-Holmes era has replaced the Letts Dicks era and the Tom Baker era.
I'm more confident in Holmes than in Dicks, to be honest. To be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, we haven't. This is the first serial we've had as with Holmes as script editor, so we don't really have much to base any of that on, except that at least Terrance Dicks didn't let any like massacre / Fury from the Deep serials through.
Right. I mean, this was mediocre, but like Planet of the Spiders, really wasn't anywhere near anything like Massacre. I also did notice, like Planet of the Spiders, the recaps in this serial were pretty long. They went back quite a bit in the beginning of each episode. Might have had something to do with the fact that they were filmed at the same time. Who knows?
Part of the same production block.
Maybe not. I really don't know.
Terrance Dicks did write this serial to feature a lot of elements of the Pertwee era to kind of ease new viewers into the Tom Baker era.
Huh.
And I mean, I could see this as a Pertwee serial with some slight adjustments, obviously. But
yeah, of course. With
I mean, it could definitely be a Pertwee serial.
Toned down.
I mean,
yeah, and the Doctor has some very Third Doctor-esque lines in the serial, like I noticed.
So obviously they were going for that, like I just said.
And it's with Unit, so
right. It's got Unit. It's got the villain that wants to take over the world, and it's got the Doctor stopping them. Like that's really all you need for a Third Doctor. And Bessie. You've basically got the early 70s era of Doctor Who right there.
Yep.
I mean, not much more to say. It was kind of a boring serial, but it did introduce the Fourth Doctor well, I think.
Yeah, I think it did. It introduced a lot of character traits of his here right off the bat, and you could tell he's definitely going to be a wackier Doctor than at least the Third Doctor was.
Yeah, and obviously we'll see next week if that carries on. I mean, we might have a Power of the Dalek situation where the Doctor is just completely different from his later. Yeah, probably not. I don't think Terrance Dicks would be that insane. I don't think Robert Holmes would let that through,
And I don't think Baker would want to do that.
Yeah,
himself.
That too. Obviously, that's a poor idea.
I think Troughton just kind of didn't know how to portray the Doctor at the beginning, especially since he was the first reimagining of the Doctor.
Yeah. So, serial obviously gains brownie points for introducing him and bringing back the 2 companion team that we've been waiting for
months.
5 seasons? 4 seasons? 5.
Yeah, 5.
Because all of the Third Doctor's era?
Yeah. And kudos for introducing the robot, the best villain on this show. So no.
Even better than Tagana?
No, I'm just kidding. No, but yeah, no, the two companion team is back. Hopefully, Sullivan is going to be interesting.
I just think of Monsters, Inc. when you say Sullivan.
Sully. Fine. Hopefully he'll do more and be more interesting than he was here, and I think he will.
I hope so.
I mean,
I hope they... Because, I mean, I was reading production information for the serial. The reason why Harry Sullivan was introduced was because when they were still thinking of going back to having an older Doctor, they wanted there to be a character who could take on the physical aspect of, like, going in gung-ho a lot of the times, like how Pertwee would do. But then...
Yes, sort of like an Ian-ish character.
They decided on Tom Baker, but... and then they still signed on Harry Sullivan anyway.
Right. And we haven't mentioned that Baker is the youngest Doctor so far.
Right. I mean, it feels kind of obvious, almost.
Yeah, it might have felt a little weird back in the day. After, well, Pertwee wasn't like old, quote-unquote old man in the sense that Hartnell was.
Well, I mean, you know what will be weird is Peter Davison, who was the youngest Doctor straight up until Matt Smith. Our next Doctor is just like 24, I think, when he becomes the Doctor.
It's going to be odd.
Or 25. But oh well. So, you have any final comments on the serial?
Not really. It was just, I wouldn't have enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy it too much as it is, but I would have enjoyed it much less had it not introduced the Fourth Doctor.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's a bit mediocre. So email us at thedoctor@decorative.com. Questions, comments, concerns, angry rants, love letters. Are you going to attempt to use that pickup line on someone this week? Report back and tell us how it goes. I would be immensely curious, and I would commend you if you even tried. Be sure to check us out on iTunes and on YouTube, both at Trust Your Doctor, and be sure to check out the website for Triple Play, the other podcast we have.
And listen to it.
Yeah, obviously. I feel like that's given. It's like right there on the front page of the website, like, we're proud to present Triple Play Episode 0. Right there.
Check us out on Facebook, of course, and Twitter. Follow us on Facebook, or follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook. And next week, we watch The Ark in Space, which is supposedly one of the best Doctor Who serials ever. So hopefully that lives up to the hype.
Hype train.
But until then, the end.